Just going through a Tuesday, second hour of every Tuesday, you know what that means. It means Coach Mack, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, Middle Tennessee's most trusted local Ford dealership for 40 years. Coach Mack, you ever get a new Ford under the Christmas tree? That'd be a pretty nice gift.
It's in his driveway.
You know what? My sister owns a Ford dealership in Texas, and I wish she was listening to this program right now because she never gave me a Ford. No.
Well, dang, man, I feel like we need to remedy
She
that.
must have gave it to me, man.
Well, what I would like for you to do, because I know we've got the technology, go ahead and record this, and I'll send it to her for her Christmas present.
Ooh, I see how you work, Coach Mack.
Joseph had that
dog,
Joseph's already hit the red button, man. He's recording all this. We'll pass this right along to your sister.
Yeah, while we're talking Christmas, because I won't probably get to see nor talk to you guys before Christmas and Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yes, sir. You too.
You two are special dudes, and I want you to you and your families have a great Christmas.
Well, I want the same for you, Coach, for sure. I know a lot of people wanted a nice Christmas to start against the Texans. Man, it seemed like the Titans were kind of one play away from putting it away over and over again. They just couldn't do it, and hat tip to DeMeco Ryans and the Texans for what they were able to do. They came in and they didn't want to get beat by Derrick Henry, and by gosh, they stopped him, and they did enough to win the game.
Well, it very similar to the Miami game, and the fact that the Titans started out well, hit a lull in the middle, but the difference was they couldn't finish. And against Miami, they rallied up and finished big. They could not finish against the Texans, and it was a very disappointing loss, clearly for the team and then for everybody else. Because, again, as I say, I really the fans at Nissan this year have been absolutely tremendous, and they were all into it and everything that I saw Blaine before the game. I saw him down there talking with Earl Campbell, and of course then the celebration of life, and the tribute to Frank Wycheck, first of all, I thought was outstanding. I thought that, and then of course Billy White Shoes Johnson induction into the Ring of Honor it was a special day all around, and it didn't finish like anybody associated with the Titans wanted it to finish.
What were the Texans able to do so well defensively to the Titans' offensive line? And I know they're a young, experienced bunch, but man, they just had no answers for what the Texans were doing.
Well, they loaded up and stopped the run. I mean, they absolutely had they completely crushed the run. Matt Burke is their defensive coordinator. Yeah. He started out here at the Titans with us. Started out as my assistant in the linebacker room when Jeff Fisher and Jim Schwartz hired him from Dartmouth and brought him in here. This was his first start in the National Football League, and he's been under some really good defensive coaches, in his tenure coming up, and he understood that to stop the run, you've got to load up early on, and then you've got to be able to withstand the one-on-one on the outside that it presents when you're loading up to stop the run. And then, what he did then is when they got him into must-pass situations, I mean, he just stormed the castle. I mean, he absolutely did. And I know that 7 sacks were recorded, but, there were a lot more pressures and hits on that quarterback than 7 in that game.
Hanging out with Coach Mack, getting the Mack attack again, courtesy of the good folks at Two Rivers Ford.
Well, Coach, there were some positives in the game besides not
getting
the victory with Burks. We got to see a little more Burks, so we got to see that he at least exists out there a little bit. And then no false starts, which I'm super happy about. But kind of take us into maybe some other positive things that you saw out there that the Titans, being a young team, can kind of build on.
Well, they got Traylon started, and you're right. I mean, they got him started, and you can see, this is a big, strong receiver that can stretch the field, when you get it to him. But you've got to have time. He's got to have time to be able to – and plus, a couple of those tunnel screens, Blaine, I know that you saw that they threw to him outside. He ran through the initial tackles, which was really, really big. And so, he's got to continue to develop. I mean, his career has been very, very segmented because of start stop with injuries. With injuries, not only to the lower body but then the concussions. So he hasn't really had a fluid start yet, in one full year, and that's really what he needs, is to be able to stack games back on one on top of the other. But we all see the talent. I mean, everybody can see the talent, and so you need to develop that further. I thought the defense was playing extremely well early on, and especially with a lot of pieces missing, especially at the corner position. And then they did a nice job. Now Case Keenum, on Titans radio before because, I was with Case Keenum for 5 years at the Rams. I mean, I know what Case Keenum's all about because he started a lot of games for us, and he's one of those guys, like Gardner Minshew is, that everybody says, oh, well, you got to back up. Well, those guys have stayed in the league for a long time because they're a dealer. They understand how to operate offenses. And so, I mean, the Titans were very aware of what he could do. But the one pick that he threw that the Titans were able to return for a touchdown, I thought that gave the Titans a huge momentum boost, and a leg up. So, some of those things. And then, again, Danico Autry just continues to show up. Continues to show up. Because this guy is a consummate professional, but it was disappointing to watch him be able to run the football, and it wasn't only inside up the middle. They were running some counter gap schemes too, where the fits just and again, this is the same thing that we've experienced sometimes during the season and everybody else experienced. I watched that Seattle game very, very closely last night, and it's the same thing that Philadelphia fell into in that game last night, against Seattle. Was the run fits, especially on a lot of the counter pull stuff that Seattle does with those 3 tight ends and the movement stuff. It's not good. And if your fits aren't good, any of these backs in the league are going to take advantage of it if they get to their third step.
No doubt about it. We're on with Coach Mack, giving us the Mack Attack here on from Titans Radio. Love Levis's effort in this last game, but at points in time, I'm interested to hear you being a former head coach and a DC, and how you approach, how teams would attack him, like trying to hit him because he's kind of somewhat reckless. And I'm not talking about his injury. I'm talking about when he's running, trying to buy time and trying to, make an extra down. It's like he's going a little too far. How do you manage a quarterback, especially a young, passionate, driven quarterback, to slide and learn how to protect himself when he gets out in the open field? Because we all know what you defensive coordinators are teaching the players to go out there and do. And that means, hey, let's see number 2 quarterback. You
don't ever coach competitiveness out of them, but you coach common sense in them. And common sense says quarterbacks get a maximum amount of protection when they are runners and take advantage of that. Now, this game, I thought he was a little bit better. Blaine, he didn't lower his shoulder this game. At least he can't. But you could still tell that he was fighting that urge to slide because he came in and he kind of chest bumped him, off of him. But at least he didn't lower his shoulder and go into that thing. So he has to learn that. Because as you said, and you're right. I mean, you're a former guy. I mean, they call you the hit man for a reason. I mean, and you know that if you have a quarterback that is going to challenge a defense, they're going to go after you. And they're going to go after you with everything that they have, every chance they get. So, as I said, you don't coach caution into your players, but especially at the quarterback position, you coach common sense into them, especially when you're a runner.
Well, Coach, you've been down this road before, and a lot of people are asking questions, not only the fans, but a little bit of the media as well here in Nashville, because, it's uncharted territory for Coach Vrabel to be coaching for, nothing really, not, they're being eliminated from the playoffs. So kind of take us through what coaches do when, in my mind, when you don't have anything to play for, look forward to going down the road. It's different in the pros to me, but I want to hear from Coach.
Well, this is new territory for me too. But the few times I've been through it in my coaching career, there's plenty that coach and play for, because first of all, you're talking about your profession, and that's number one, and everything. Everybody is still look. These films, the films in the games when you're out of the playoff contention are being viewed just as hard as the ones when you're in the playoff contention for coaches and players. And so, and for players, it should be very, very simple. Because everything you do and you put on film is an interview, either at your current place or for someplace else. And so it's not like just because, again, as I said, this is the first time in my years doing this here on Titans Radio, the 8th year doing it that we've been out of it, in December with 3 games left. But to me, the thing that's important for players to understand is that you're still being evaluated, not only here, at the Titans, but everywhere else across the league. So it's not like everybody quits watching. The people that are determining your future are not, don't quit watching these games, just because you don't have a chance to get into the playoffs with a result of the games.
Well, with Coach Mack, giving us the Mack Attack from Titans Radio.
Coach, Seattle's defense, I know you were saying you watched that game. They haven't been particularly great in anything this season, but, man, they got a couple of turnovers versus the Eagles last night. They held them to 7 points. They had benched Jamal Adams and played another guy in his place and made some personnel moves, but they looked solid last night.
Well, on all three levels, the Williams, of course, inside, since the trade has really been a beast. Boye Mafe on the edge. I liked him in the draft, and he's coming on. He's got 7 sacks this year. So Williams, Mafe, and then the linebacker that's been playing there for 100 years. That back there is such a great player.
Bobby Wagner, yes sir.
Yeah, Wagner, and he's been such a great player for a lot of years in that defense. And here's the other thing about their defense. I mean, ever since Pete's been there, Pete has got a system that he works with, but also they tweak that system depending on the type of people that they have. For years and years and years with the Legion of Boom there, and I know very well because played them for a lot of years when I was there at the Rams. They were the team that we built the Rams to beat because they were the leaders in the NFC West then. And defensively, you're going to have to beat that 3-match coverage in the back end. And they lived with a 4-man rush. They lived with a 4-man rush, 4-man pressure, and that 3-match back there in the back end. And so now, they started to move people around a little bit because they don't quite have the Legion of Boom back there. I think that's why they went out and got Adams, because he was, he kind of fit that mold. Of course, he wasn't even there, I don't think, at Lumen Field.
Yeah.
For that ball game. But be that as it may, they're always going to be at least in the mix defensively as long as Pete Carroll's there, because he's got something that has worked for him since he's been at USC on the defensive side of the football, and it's worked for him for a lot of years there in Seattle.
It sure has. This has nothing to do with the current Titans or the Seahawks or anything, but I wanted to ask you about this guy. We had a caller who brought up Cortland Finnegan in the last segment, and just, wouldn't it be great if the Titans could find another guy like him? And I thought, well, we can ask Coach Mack about Cortland Finnegan. He knows him pretty well.
Well, Finney was a tremendous find in the draft, and I remember vetting, Cortland Finnegan and watching him there at Sanford. And the thing that we would watch and we would see, of course, he played safety there. He was a safety there, but he was extremely fast and very, very aggressive. Now, when we brought him in here and had him transition to a cornerback, and you can ask Finney this, and he will tell you too, because, we loved him so much that when Jeff Fisher took the job at the Rams, we brought him up there with us, to the Rams too, because highly competitive, very combative. But when we first brought him in here, guys, had to teach him how to backpedal. He had never backpedaled in his life. Never back. Think of that. He got to be a Pro Bowl corner, but coming into the league, he had never backpedaled in his life. So it points out his work ethic, his dedication to his craft, and plus, he was just a rat terrier, man. He would go after you, and he just would never ever stop, and that was infectious for everybody not only on the defense but on the team. I love Finney, and he was a guy that made his mark in this league.
Sure did. Coach Mack made his mark in the league, too. Makes it on Titans Radio now and joins us this same time every week.
Well, Coach, coach to coach, on that first drive, I think it was the first drive of the Titans in this past game versus the Texans, they were on a 35-yard line. Vrabel goes for it on 4th down.
How about that?
Boy, man, what kind of cojones you got to have that, man, in the first drive ever. Yeah, Vray balls, man. That's what we called him. Mickey just termed it there, man. That was, whoa, wait. Let's call timeout. I was in a timeout. Let's think about this now. I don't know. Man, what goes into a decision like that? Now, it worked out, and it was a great decision, but, man, that is the Vray ball I want to see on offense all the time.
Well, I think it was very calculated. It was just like going for 2 down there. You guys are very creative.
That's that Mickey, man.
How did I know that was Mickey?
Yeah.
You guys, that's pretty creative there. Anyway, it goes in. They thought it out. Because it's the same thing they did when they went for 2 down there. He's got some reasoning behind it. And here's the other thing. They had some momentum going, in that drive, and they were coming off of a week with some momentum at the end of the game. with the offense. And so, and they were being able to move the ball. And I think that they're just, sometimes and analytics, I don't know how much analytics played into that one, but you've got to have, we've talked before. I mean, you and I've talked a lot just about the feel of the game, both as a coach and a player, and a feel at the game at the moment in time. I think that was a moment in time when he just felt like, you know what, we can make it.
Yeah, that was a heck of a call there, man. Man, I have to ask you, because I asked you somewhat similar question last week, but this is on the defensive side. The first half, I don't think the Titans gave up any sacks. You can quote me on if I'm a little wrong. But then in the second half, they gave up 7 sacks. I was like, well, what happened here when we're up 13-3, and then now all of a sudden we're giving up all these sacks? Maybe because we couldn't run the ball, at least enough to keep them honest. I don't know. What happened?
You could not run it. And then if you look back, and again, I don't break down the film like I did when I was coaching, but during the game when I'm watching it, I make notes. And you could see in the second half what Matt Burke did. He started bringing everybody up. As I said, he started bringing everybody up to the line of scrimmage. You could hear me say a lot of times he'd bring guys out of the secondary up on the edge, both to the open side and to the closed side, right at the snap, and say, here, we're coming. Let's go, because it really looked to me like they felt like if they continued to put the pressure, on the blocking unit, that sooner or later they could get it to crack. And then what they did, and I think it goes right along with what you just said, that was very, very true. They were stoning the run so well that finally they just, they really abandoned any thought of playing the run conventionally with 7 people, and just started bringing 8 or 9 people up in the line of scrimmage and at the quarterback.
There you go.
Coach, fantastic stuff. We know you're getting ready for Christmas Eve. We will see you and Santa Claus at Nissan Stadium in a few days, my friend.
Ho, ho, ho.
Guys, Merry Christmas to both of you. Really appreciate you. See you guys.
Yes, sir.